Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth sharing. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Today, I'm going to interpret a book for you, titled The Mathematics of Love. How can love and mathematics, two seemingly unrelated things, be connected? This book tells us that, even though human emotions are not neat or strictly regulated like mathematical formulas, it doesn't mean that mathematics has no place in matters of love. Mathematics studies patterns, and love, as a form of interaction between people, is filled with its own set of patterns. For instance, the book mentions a famous algorithm, the Gale-Shapley algorithm, which simulates the different outcomes of actively pursuing someone in a singles bar versus waiting for someone to approach you. The conclusion is that actively pursuing someone tends to yield better results than passively waiting. Later, people discovered that this conclusion applies not only to finding love but also to many other scenarios involving mutual selection, such as hospital staff matching, the allocation of middle school students to high schools, and even recruiting members for clubs. The Gale-Shapley algorithm not only gave courage to many who were unsure about love but also provided a basis for behavioral strategies in various other fields. This underscores the book's point that mathematics plays a vital role in abstracting real-life situations, helping us uncover hidden patterns that are easily obscured by emotional factors, and providing guidance for our actions. The author of this book, Dr. Hannah Fry, is a mathematician currently teaching at the University of London, specializing in urban mathematics. Besides her academic role, she is a regular speaker for the Royal Society of London, using lectures, documentaries, radio programs, and other formats to explore human behavioral patterns in urban environments from a mathematical perspective. The author explains that through her years of work, she has discovered that mathematics can offer a fresh perspective on almost everything, even the enigmatic realm of love. She wrote this book with the hope that mathematics could serve as a guide, providing an objective reference for people's love lives that is not restricted by subjective feelings, helping individuals manage their love lives in a more rational manner. The love-related issues discussed in this book can be broadly categorized into two types, those encountered in the search for love and those encountered in maintaining love. These discussions involve various mathematical forms such as formulas, models, and algorithms and cover subjects closely related to mathematics, including game theory and mathematical statistics. Next, I will follow the book's structure and take you through the stages of love, the search for love and the maintenance of love, exploring the insights that mathematics can provide. First, let's delve into the first part to see what insights mathematics can offer us in the search for love. In this section, we will primarily focus on two key words. Let's begin with attraction. In reality, you may inevitably find that you are initially attracted to someone, often due to their appearance. Why does this happen? Biologists offer an explanation, suggesting that physical characteristics have been tools for our genetic selection throughout human evolution. Many of our aesthetic preferences today have gradually developed over time. For example, after an illness, facial features may grow slightly asymmetric. Therefore, subconsciously, humans tend to favor individuals with naturally symmetrical faces, believing they are healthier and have stronger immune systems. Additionally, full lips and a smaller waist-to-hip ratio in females are often associated with higher levels of magnetic hormones. On the other hand, men with broad chins and pronounced brow ridges require support from higher levels of androgens, like testosterone, leading to preferences for such features. These preferences are embedded in our subconscious. From this perspective, if you want to enhance your attractiveness, it seems like striving towards these biologically evolved aesthetic preferences might be a good idea. However, statistical data tells us that the rule of symmetry seems to apply mainly to static portraits. In real interactions, asymmetrical facial features can make a person seem more sincere and attractive. Moreover, the facial features we prefer in the opposite sex can reflect our personality preferences. For example, testosterone promotes the development of a square jaw and bushy eyebrows, making a person more resolute and combative. Consequently, some women who prefer gentle personalities may not favor such facial characteristics. In summary, in real life, beauty does not adhere to a single formula, and the saying, "beauty is in the eye of the beholder," holds true. Speaking of reality, let's now turn our attention to the online world. In the era of flourishing social networks, a significant amount of socializing happens online. The data that accumulates during this process allows us to use mathematics to delve deeper into the relationship between physical appearance and attractiveness. In the online world, our initial impression of a person is largely based on a single photo and a few lines of introduction. In fact, on many dating websites in the United States, you can select potential dates based solely on their photos. Therefore, when people post photos online, they often strive to enhance their appearance according to societal beauty standards. This might involve making themselves appear slimmer and fairer, retouching blemishes on their faces, or concealing imperfections that can't be retouched digitally. The goal is to attract more attention and date invitations. However, mathematics tells us that this choice might not be wise. The evidence comes from the well-known American dating website, OkCupid, founded by a group of mathematicians. It has been recognized as one of the top 10 dating websites globally by Time magazine. The founders of the site utilized the extensive data gathered from the platform to conduct continuous research and tracking of user behavior on dating websites, leading to many interesting discoveries. One of the author's favorite findings is that physical appearance doesn't necessarily determine popularity. This website allows users to rate the attractiveness of other users on a scale from 1 to 5, known as attractiveness score. To examine the relationship between physical appearance and popularity, the founders selected 5,000 female users and compared their attractiveness scores with the number of dating messages they received each month. With the help of mathematical statistics, they derived an expression from the data. By inputting a person's attractiveness score into this expression, you could predict the number of messages that person would receive. One key insight revealed by this expression is that, from the perspective of accumulating popularity, controversial beauty surpasses average beauty. What does this mean? Let's simplify with an example. Suppose both Lily and Jenny have an average attractiveness score of 4. However, when you look at the specific data behind this average score, you find that Lily's scores are clustered around 4, whereas Jenny's scores vary widely, including some 5s and several 1s. The key here is the dispersion of scores. The data suggests that on dating websites, individuals with a polarizing and controversial appearance like Jenny, who receives both high and low scores, tend to be more popular than individuals like Lily, who are universally considered cute. Why is this the case? One interpretation from a mathematical perspective is the cost-benefit calculation people make when dating online. When you see someone who fits the societal beauty standards well, you expect that many others will also be interested in contacting them. This reduces your chances of successfully approaching them, so you might decide not to invest your time in pursuing them. However, if someone aligns with your aesthetic preferences but doesn't completely adhere to the mainstream standards, your expected level of competition decreases, increasing the likelihood of successful communication, thus giving you the courage and motivation to initiate contact. For those who are concerned about not having a perfect appearance and are trying to conceal their imperfections, this might be a reminder that being brave enough to showcase your uniqueness can be more beneficial than trying to appear attractive but ordinary. Even if it creates some controversy, you'll only lose those who don't appreciate your true self and attract those who genuinely admire you. Alright, we've just discussed the first key word, attraction. Next, let's talk about compatibility. Compatibility calculation is one of the core love algorithms used on some dating websites, and we'll continue using OkCupid as an example. When users register on the website, they are required to complete a questionnaire. The website uses the answers submitted by users to calculate compatibility between different individuals. In the questionnaire, you will encounter a series of questions, and for each question, you must provide 3 key pieces of information. First, your answer. Second, how you expect your potential partner to answer, and third, the importance of each question to you. The last piece of information is crucial for personalizing the matchmaking process. Based on different levels of importance, you can assign scores to each question, ranging from 1 to 250. The compatibility calculation principle isn't overly complicated, involving 3 steps. I'll illustrate this with an example provided in the book. Once you grasp the concept, you can try it out for yourself. For simplicity, let's use a questionnaire with just 2 questions. The first question is, do you like sports? The second question is, do you like reading? Let's assume we both complete this questionnaire together. Step 1 involves calculating if I meet your expectations. You want me to like sports and have assigned a significance of 10 to sports. Similarly, you want me to like reading and have assigned a significance of 100 to reading. However, I only like sports and not reading, so I receive a score of 10 for sports and lose the 100 points for reading. Therefore, my compatibility with you is the 10 points I earned, divided by the total score of 110, resulting in approximately 9.1%. In step 2, we calculate if you meet my expectations. Just like before, I have certain expectations for your answers. If your answers align with my expectations, you earn the predetermined score I set. Let's assume that in the end, your compatibility with me is approximately 99.6%. Now, in the third step, we calculate the geometric mean of the scores obtained in the first two steps to arrive at the final compatibility score. The geometric mean involves multiplying the two scores and taking the square root, rather than adding the two numbers and dividing by 2. Thus, the final compatibility score we obtain is 30.1%. This algorithm is used in hundreds of questions and among millions of users on the OkCupid website, making it one of the world's most successful dating websites. However, people have discovered that sometimes, a person with a high compatibility score on the website may not necessarily lead to an ideal dating experience in reality. The author points out two reasons for this. First, the questionnaire mainly focuses on personal preferences, and two people with high compatibility in preferences may have good initial conversations but might not necessarily be happy together. For example, both individuals may love watching comedy movies, but that doesn't guarantee they'd enjoy watching comedy movies together. The second reason is that people often don't really know what they want. In other words, we may not know what kind of person is the right match for us until we meet them. Therefore, the situation where online compatibility scores don't align with real-life experiences can be attributed to two factors. First, the calculated compatibility based on the questionnaire reflects more of an objective fit between two individuals rather than their potential for a happy relationship. Second, the algorithm's results are only a prediction and an explanation of reality. It serves as an auxiliary tool in the search for a soulmate but cannot replace the real process of building a relationship. So, are there any ways to optimize the current algorithms? The book suggests looking at body signals. We know that when someone is attracted to another person, their pupils dilate, they subconsciously mimic the other person's body movements or speech habits, and even their laughter becomes similar. In psychology, this is referred to as subconscious synchrony. Research indicates that the body signals we emit when meeting someone for the first time are related to long-term compatibility. It seems that although our minds might not know what we want, our bodies are always honest. Some scholars believe that current technology can support dating websites in incorporating these body signals into compatibility calculations. One way to do this is by having a series of short online video dates in one evening, where voice assistants and image recognition software simultaneously record your language and movements. Mathematics can help quantify these body signals and incorporate them into the existing compatibility algorithm, improving its predictive accuracy. After one evening of video dates, you'll have a compatibility statistical report for different individuals as a reference for selecting potential dates. So, what we've just discussed are some interesting insights that mathematics provides during the search for love. Next, let's talk about what insights mathematics can provide during the stage of being in a relationship. But before we delve into this, I'd like to clarify the concept of the relationship stage. If you find yourself in a romantic involvement but do not intend to make a long-term commitment, you are still essentially in the searching stage we discussed earlier. The true relationship stage begins when you genuinely start considering a relationship from a long-term perspective. Therefore, this long-term perspective is the key element that distinguishes these two stages. If you view it as an assumption within the realm of applied mathematics, you'll discover that the presence or absence of this assumption will have a crucial impact on the results in many of our upcoming discussions. With that said, a natural question arises: when should we stop searching and transition into the relationship stage? In other words, how do we decide whether to choose the person in front of us as a long-term partner? You might have heard of a classic problem involving selecting apples. It goes like this: you are in an apple orchard, and you're allowed to pick one apple as you walk through. The catch is that once you pass an apple, you cannot go back to it. The book assumes that the process of finding a long-term partner follows similar rules. The challenge here is that when you decide to choose someone, you never know if there might be someone even better in the future. There's a mathematical topic called the optimal stopping theory that addresses such problems. It provides a strategy that, through a series of derivations and calculations, helps maximize the probability of finding the optimal partner. Let me explain this strategy using an example from the book. Let's assume you start dating at the age of 20 and aim to settle down before the age of 40. The period between these years is referred to as your dating window. The optimal strategy requires that, during the initial 37% of your dating window, you reject all potential partners or refrain from choosing anyone as a long-term partner. In our example, this means that from around the age of 20 to 27, you're in the rejection phase. This phase is for getting acquainted with the market and understanding your expectations for a life partner. Once you pass this rejection phase, you should choose the first person you meet who is better than all your previous partners as your long-term partner. However, it's essential to note that this strategy only maximizes the probability of achieving your wish and doesn't guarantee it with 100% certainty. Mathematicians have calculated through a method called Monte Carlo simulation that the success rate of this strategy is around 1/3. The good news is that by broadening your criteria for a partner, the probability of this strategy succeeding significantly increases. Specifically, if you feel that you don't necessarily need to find the absolute best person out of all candidates, but finding someone in the top 5% is sufficient, you can reduce the rejection phase from 37% to 22%. In the scenario we discussed, your rejection phase would shift from ages 20 to around 24.5, and your chances of realizing your wish would increase from 1/3 to 57%. If you further relax your standards, seeking someone in the top 15%, the rejection phase can be reduced to 19%. At this point, the strategy's success rate is 78%, making it a much safer approach than the initial all-or-nothing strategy. The strategies we discussed not only apply to helping people find partners but also to a range of problems where you're uncertain about when to stop searching. For instance, if you want to find the best house in 3 months, you can eliminate all options you encounter in the first month. Then, as soon as you come across something better than the previous options, you make your choice. If you wish to hire a secretary who falls in the top 5% of all applicants, you can reject the first 22% of applicants and offer the opportunity to the person who satisfies you more than anyone before. While these strategies don't guarantee a 100% success rate, they do maximize the probability of success. From a mathematical perspective, it's a rational approach. Okay, let's get back to the topic of love. Once you've chosen a partner, you've officially entered the relationship stage. This stage of love comes with some inherent risks, like betrayal, arguments, cold wars, and more, all of which can potentially harm your existing relationship. Mathematicians have also explored these issues. Let's start with the problem of betrayal. You might have heard of the famous game theory dilemma called the prisoner's dilemma. Let's briefly recall it. 2 prisoners are separately interrogated, and they can choose to either cooperate by staying silent or betray each other by confessing. If both stay silent, they each serve a reduced sentence. If both confess, they both serve a longer sentence. If one stays silent while the other confesses, the one who stays silent gets a severe sentence, while the confessor gets a minimal sentence. I've compiled this information into a table in the document for your reference. The essence of the prisoner's dilemma lies in the conflict between individual rationality and collective rationality. While collective rationality, looking at the total years of sentences, suggests that both staying silent is the best outcome, individual rationality, driven by self-interest, tends to lead both prisoners to confess. The author points out that many real-world games involving 2 parties follow this logic, including issues of love and loyalty. Assuming that experiencing betrayal causes significant harm to an individual, both individuals, when believing that they have only one choice to make, tend to lean towards betraying the other to avoid being betrayed and suffering greater harm. However, there's a crucial condition that affects the dynamics of these situations: the inclusion of a long-term perspective. In a repeated game involving romantic relationships, it's not a one-shot deal but a repeated series of games. This distinction is vital. When you need to engage in repeated games with your partner, your perspective on payback changes. You shift your focus from short-term gain maximization to long-term benefit maximization. In the case of the prisoner's dilemma, mathematicians have already proven that when single-round games transform into repeated games, individual and collective long-term interests align, and the rational choice shifts from mutual betrayal to mutual cooperation. This applies to love as well. From a long-term perspective, loyalty benefits both parties the most. Therefore, mathematics suggests that a person's loyalty in love is, to some extent, dependent on how they view the relationship, meaning whether they genuinely intend to commit to the relationship. Apart from the betrayal issue, game theory can also help us contemplate various other love-related problems. For instance, when your partner forgets your birthday, should you choose to argue, break up, or forgive them? Or when you get stood up on a date, should you have a big confrontation or maintain silence, and so on. In such situations, we might sometimes become impulsive, biased, or emotionally driven. Game theory, as a tool based on mathematics that balances action strategies by comparing payoffs, can temporarily detach us from emotional chaos and offer a more objective and rational perspective on how to navigate relationships in love. Renowned game theory expert and member of the National Academy of Sciences, Robert Axelrod, presented a strategy applicable to many love-related challenges in his book, The Evolution of Cooperation. He suggests that in a repeated game where both sides confront each other multiple times, your optimal strategy is to start with cooperation and then mimic your partner's previous move in subsequent rounds. If they cooperate, you cooperate, if they betray, you betray, and if they correct their behavior, you also return to cooperation. This strategy can be succinctly referred to as tit for tat. Please note that this strategy requires you not to over- or underreact. The retaliation should be proportional. It encourages cooperation, punishes, and deters exploitation. It tells us three key things. First, express a willingness to cooperate and maintain it unless your partner chooses not to. Second, don't accept mistreatment. If your partner harms you, respond with corresponding punishment, but don't overdo it. Third, once the punishment ends, quickly return to a cooperative stance. If you continue to punish for a mistake, you both might fall into a vicious cycle, so it's essential to move forward. Interestingly, not only do game theorists provide such strategic advice, but the book also showcases a collaborative study conducted by mathematicians and psychologists exploring mathematical patterns in real-life romantic relationships. The research results align with the strategies we discussed earlier, with the game theory focusing on behavioral cooperation or punishment while this study emphasizes the positive or negative attitudes of both parties. You may have heard that psychologists have a viewpoint that the way couples communicate can be used to predict the longevity of a relationship. In happy relationships, both partners view each other's positive behaviors as the norm and perceive negative behaviors as exceptions. For example, they might say things like, "These flowers are beautiful, he's always so kind to me," or "She's been under a lot of stress lately, so it's no wonder she's been irritable." Conversely, in unhappy relationships, it's the opposite. They view each other's negative behaviors as the norm and positive behaviors as exceptions. For instance, they might say, "Here we go again, she's just so selfish," or "He got a raise, and he only gave me flowers because he was in a good mood." Psychologist John Gottman's team once observed hundreds of couples' conversations, recording their facial expressions, heart rates, skin conductance, blood pressure, and conversation content. They developed a scoring system capable of predicting divorce rates with up to 90% accuracy. Later, they collaborated with mathematician James Murray to turn the logic behind this scoring prediction system into a mathematical model. This led to the discovery of an important relationship-shaping principle, the reinforcement loop of positive and negative attitudes. Specifically, if one partner makes a positive response, like agreeing with the other's words or making them laugh, it has a positive effect on the other, making them more likely to respond positively. There's an invisible threshold in the recipient's mind called the positive limit. When the sender's positive response stays below this limit, it has only a mild positive effect on the recipient. However, when it exceeds this limit, the impact is dramatically enhanced. For example, if a woman loves going to the theater and her partner takes the initiative to invite her to a much-anticipated play, it can trigger a significantly positive effect in her mind. If, previously, 5 out of her 10 reactions were positive, after such an incident, it's highly likely that 6, 7, or even 9 out of 10 reactions will turn positive. The same logic applies to negative responses, but with two crucial differences. First, a negative response always has a greater impact than an equivalent positive response. Second, people set their negative threshold lower than their positive threshold. Negative responses not only carry more weight, but people have less tolerance for them. This suggests that partners need to exercise extra caution when expressing negative attitudes because a single loss of control can plunge the relationship into an irreversible vicious cycle, leading it rapidly towards collapse. The author also shares a reflection on his own marriage. He used to believe that good love required compromise and understanding, so he set his negative limit as high as possible, giving his partner space and only addressing serious issues. However, the research team found the opposite to be true. A high negative limit was proven to be a significant indicator of the likelihood of divorce. In the most successful relationships, the negative limit is quite low, meaning both partners don't intentionally suppress their feelings, and minor issues can be promptly resolved rather than accumulating and magnifying. This mathematical research has brought a positive change to the author's own love life. Here, we've concluded the essence of this book for you. The significance of the mathematical perspective on people's love lies in its ability to abstract real scenarios, helping us uncover the underlying patterns that are often obscured by emotional and other complex factors. This, in turn, provides guidance for our actions. During the phase of seeking love, we mainly focus on two key elements: attraction and compatibility. Concerning physical attractiveness, we've seen that beauty doesn't have a unified formula, and there's a preference for controversial beauty over bland beauty. When it comes to compatibility, the matching algorithms on dating websites might fail because, before we meet the right person, we usually don't know who is the right one. However, our bodies are more honest than our minds. With the help of mathematics, we can quantify these physical signals to enhance the accuracy of compatibility algorithms. Regarding selecting a long-term partner, mathematics reminds us that if you have high expectations for a future long-term partner, it's best to spend more time researching the love market. Still, you should also be ready for a higher likelihood of those expectations not being met. In the phase of maintaining a relationship, we've seen that a person's loyalty in love to some extent depends on whether they're willing to take a long-term perspective on the relationship. While interacting with a partner, we can adopt a strategy of encouraging cooperation and punishing exploitation. The method is to provide equal and corresponding feedback for various partner behaviors. Moreover, we shouldn't suppress small negative feelings in daily life. If they accumulate and magnify, they could eventually lead to a relationship crisis that's difficult to reverse. As a mathematical researcher, the book's author candidly states that his purpose in writing this book is not only to provide readers with insights into their love lives but also to showcase the vitality of mathematics. In life, many people may find mathematics overly theoretical, dry, and profound. However, this book aims to demonstrate through vivid scenarios how closely intertwined the natural order and reality are. Even in a subject as distant from mathematical formulas and proofs as love, mathematics continues to play a role. In the book's conclusion, the author points out that while mathematics helps us explore various aspects of the process of love differently, they are all linked by a single truth: they are all models for explaining the real world. They are abstractions of reality, not replications. As the statistician George E. P. Box said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Therefore, even though mathematics always has its limitations, allowing oneself to view the world from such an abstract perspective is an important step on our journey to explore the underlying patterns of reality. That concludes the essence of this book. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel. Give it a thumbs up and share it with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading, and it opens the door to a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.